Welcome to 40 Days with Jesus. This is day 26 out of our 40-day journey together. And we're picking up today in John chapter 13. And it begins with, it was just before the Passover feast. So it sets a little time for us, helps us know when things were happening. And says that Jesus knew that the time had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Jesus knew that it was time for him to die, to go to the cross and die for all of us. And he sets us up for this place and says he's getting ready to show his full love for his disciples. And then it says in verse 2 that the evening meal was being served. Now it puts us kind of at the supper table. That's why we're at my supper table for this time together. And then he says that Jesus knew some things about himself. And I want you to note that in verse 3. I'm not going to go through those things because I've only got so much time to go through. I want you to note the things that Jesus knew about himself according to John. And I want you to also think as you look at that, do you know those same kind of things about yourself? And so spend just a little bit of time there as you read John chapter 13 today in your quiet time together. And then it says, Jesus recognizing these things about himself, it says that he got up from the meal, stopped the meal and what was going on. He got up and he grabbed a towel and he poured water into a wash basin of some sort. And then he said he got down and he began to wash his disciples' feet. He took a towel, which was a servant's towel, and he wrapped that towel around himself and around his waist, and he washed the disciples' feet, and then he dried their feet with this towel. And this is a job that, as you've probably studied Scripture before, you know that this is a job that was reserved for the lowest of servants. And Jesus put himself in that position. Anybody could have done this that day. Anybody could have washed their feet, but nobody did. And Jesus stopped what was going on in his world. Jesus stopped what was going on at the supper table, and he washed his disciples' feet. Again, took on this low position. He said he came to Peter and he wanted to wash Peter's feet, and Peter was kind of like, no, we don't want to do this. And Jesus said, you don't realize now what I'm doing, but later you will understand. And after some more discussion, and Peter said no, and Jesus telling him what needed to happen, he did wash Peter's feet also. And then I want you to hear this. We're going to jump down to verse 12 of this chapter. And it says that when he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place at the table. And he says these words, do you understand what I have done for you? And they probably did not understand. Now, Jesus said later you're going to get it. At this point, they probably did not. So Jesus was trying to help them to understand. He says, you call me teacher and Lord, for rightly so, because that's what I am. And then he says, now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you should wash one another's feet. I have such an example that you should do as I have done for you. I tell you the truth, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. That's where we're going to stop in the scripture today. But Jesus says some things here that are tough. He says, look, you watched me do this. I just washed your feet. And Jesus is preparing for himself to be gone from their presence, gone as their leader. He says, now that I've showed you how to do it, wash one another's feet. Take care of one another. Meet the needs of each other. Become the lowliest servant for each other on a regular basis. Jesus was teaching them a powerful lesson this day. And I think it's a lesson that we still need to grasp today. I know I felt this often. I see the needs around me, and I think somebody ought to take care of that. Somebody ought to do that. But often I don't reflect on the idea that I should be the one who's taking that low position of serving others, taking care of others, meeting needs. And we need to be doing that on a daily basis. I want to encourage you, maybe even today, as you're spending time with people you're around, because sometimes it's easier to take care of the needs, the lowly needs of somebody we don't know than it is those that we're around on a regular basis. Make an effort to open our eyes and say, what can I do for somebody today? And maybe it's somebody you spend a lot of time with. Do something maybe fresh or new. Catch them even off guard, serving them. I'm sure Jesus blew the disciples' minds, caught them so off guard when he got down and washed their feet. Grab a towel today and wash somebody's feet. You know, one of the greatest examples I see of this is that in a mother who's constantly giving of herself for those around her, constantly meeting the needs, doing some of the lowliest of jobs, wiping a dirty butt or washing a dirty body, wiping a nasty, snotty nose, but just caring for somebody in a loving, passionate way. And we need to take an example from Mom I know I've learned from my mom, and I wish I would do a much better job of those kind of things, but caring for the needs of others. Jesus did that. He met a need that day, that evening, and he's called the disciples to do the same, to reach out and meet the needs of each other, to care for each other. And I believe the challenge is issued to us today. Meet the needs of one another. He goes on to say in that verse, and it sounds kind of strange, but no servant is greater than his master. No servant down here is greater than the master up here. And we would think that makes common sense. The servant is not greater than the master. Well, Jesus this day had put himself below his servants, below the ones he was teaching, to serve them. And he's saying that again, this is Jesus down here. Now, if we're going to be letting Jesus be the master, be the one who's in charge, be the one who's above, then we've got to place ourselves even lower than Jesus. So as Jesus got down and washed feet, we've got to put ourselves in that same position, that we're going to get down and get below the things even that Christ has done, so that we can allow him to continue to be master and Lord. So I want to encourage you to use that concept today. Put yourself below even what you saw Jesus do. And Jesus gave all for other people, not just washing feet. But this was just an example of what was getting ready to happen when he would give his complete life so that others may have life. John said, I wrote these things that you may believe and that you may have life. You want to experience life in a fresh, new way? Do what Jesus said do here. He said you will be blessed if you do these things. You will experience more life as you do these things. This is 40 Days with Jesus. I will see you tomorrow.